Iko Nini. So hii story ya Raila, every time I feel like I've covered the whole of it, nakumbuka like there's something that I didn't cover, and I'm sorry for that. Vile of course nimekuwa siko Kenya, nafaa kuwa narudi Kenya leo usiku, so by Thursday nitakuwa back to like my normal schedule, and yeah, hiyo time sitakuwa nikiwa late na vitu kama saizi. But one of the stories I never reacted to was that interview that Ruth Odinga did. And Ruth Odinga akifanya hii interview, she talked about her brother versus Gen Z. And after bongeje hiyo, another conspiracy theory came out, and the conspiracy theory was like hii kitu ni vile Maafrika alisema msee alikuwa kwa okay, wacha tusikize hii.
Looking at the outpouring of love that has come as a result of this, how does the family feel?
I want to say something. You are the same people, especially you as a Gen Z, who's telling me about the outpouring of love when he's dead. How about when he had not died and he was well, and you were saying that akufe? He died only knowing you people telling him that you prefer him dead. It is only us who are now seeing the outpouring. But how about Baba? He would have loved you people to have more love. So I say, for those who said those things when he was still alive, it was really wrong. But for those who have shown their love right now, hamukujua, the reality would be this. But the loss is for Kenya. When I laid him down and I stopped the machines, I said Kenya has lost. Kenya is lost.
So hiyo ndio part ilikuwa interesting. Okay, first of all, before I comment about the part, I have to say one thing. I felt like hapo kuna vile Ruth was trying to guilt trip watu, and I think one of the things that I said about Raila is he was a very divisive character, and I think one of the things I've come to learn about life is if you speak the truth and if you speak your truth, you'll always be divisive, because people always expect you to act in one way, and if you act in another, you'll end up being divisive. So I think that's one of the things that you end up learning in life, later in life, that you cannot be loved by all. If you're loved by all, that means that you lived a fake life. You never stood for anything, because anything that you stand for is going to offend someone. If you are anti-corruption, the corrupt will be offended. If you are pro-corruption, the anti-corruption will be offended. You see, you can never like furahisha kila mtu. So I didn't get hapo vile kwa sema mlifurahia kikufa nini. People talk shit online, and yes, I can even say that hapa Kenya niliona from the time he passed to the time he was getting buried, you could see like the change in attitude, especially when people saw the people that had made them believe that this was the most evil person, for those people to come out later and be like, you know what, this guy was loved the country, this guy put the country first, personal sacrifices and such. But now let's go back to now the conspiracy theory. So the conspiracy theory is hii theory moja ile this girl called Laoko was trying to push, and the theory was Raila was dead a week before, and he was alikuwa kwa machines, and there is nothing that tuko tunadanganywa, but alikuwa amededi blah blah blah. And one of the videos that I reacted to before, and I don't even need to play the video before, and again, was the Indian doctor talking about the way walimget, and after they got him, they tried CPR, alafu pia apart from CPR, they ended up putting him on life support machines. And that's what the sister was talking about, the fact that he was put on some life support machines and he didn't make it. So there was no grand conspiracy, there was nothing that girl called Laoko came up with that was out of this world. There's nothing. And the fact that we support these fake stories sometimes really pisses me off. Like, how many times does someone need to be wrong before you understand that they just tell you fake stories? Nacheki. So yeah, there was no grand conspiracy hapo, because I remember like mi mwenyewe nikikuwa hizi masides, like my researcher akinitumia story like it's some hot story, mpaka nikimwambia buda tulia, there's nothing here. Like if you watched the press conference from the Indian doctor, you heard about the machines, and if you heard about the machines, then you know that the machines had to be turned off. So there was no grand conspiracy hapo. Another story that I never reacted to was the fact that Kalonzo was not given time to eulogize. That I actually found to be strange, because I remember like the first time when I heard about all these eulogies, if I'm to be honest, I expected that Kalonzo eulogized, and when I came to learn that hakupatiwa chance, I actually felt some sort of way. Najua like Kalonzo na Raila walikuwa in the trenches for so long, and they were in the trenches in 2013, 2017 and 2022. And kulicheki interview yangu na Kalonzo, you remember me trying to ask him about 2007, and he escaped that question. So that's the part that history will judge him harshly, the role that he played in the mess that was 2007. But after that, he was the one guy who I'd say was super loyal to Raila. So for him not to be given a chance, even for if it was Ruto or whoever that decided he was not supposed to be given a chance, I found that to be messed up. They should have been able to put their differences aside and say, you know, for once, you're allowed to just talk about this guy and the fact that the two of you became this political duo and you are together for a very long time. Yes, so that's something that I found to be ish. And then eventually nakumbuka nikiona ilikuwa nani, Cherargei. So this was Cherargei said. Cherargei had tweeted, Kalonzo should be the last to complain that he was denied a chance to eulogize Raila yesterday at the state funeral service. He should be reminded in 2007, when Raila was a heartbeat away from the presidency, he betrayed him by running against him and supporting the illegitimate win of Kibaki, while President Ruto stood with Raila until he became the second Prime Minister of Kenya. So this is what Cherargei wrote, and I think I always say that 2007 was so divisive that it's water under the bridge. It's one of those things that we'll always ask ourselves, what if that the right result stood and we had a one-term president? Would we always look at elections as a formality for incumbents? How different would Kenya be if presidents felt like they have to fight tribalism? Because of course the only thing that was being used against Kibaki at that point was he was not able to fight tribalism. He was brought in under the like his obligation was to fight and reduce tribalism in Kenya, and he never did that. So what would have happened to the future presidents? Would tribalism have been the way it was? Because don't forget, a lot of people forget this, but cabinet ya Uhuru was very in quotes tribal. Cabinet ya Ruto before the broad-based was very tribal. They had to change all these things. So what would have happened? So I feel like Cherargei could bring up stories at 2007 and to hold Kalonzo to those high standards, considering what we went through baadaye. I find it pure bullshit. So I still feel like Kalonzo should have been given a chance. And yeah. So, but of course that has happened. Ubuda saizi yuko buried. So let's say that's what under the bridge. And still talking of Raila, another interesting thing that happened was Obama. Obama had not sent a message, condolence to the Raila family, and people were pissed. So people tagged him until he finally released the statement. So his statement yake ilikuwa ni Raila Odinga was a true champion of democracy, a child of independence. He endured decades of struggle and sacrifice for the broader cause of freedom and self-governance in Kenya. Time and again, I personally saw him put the interest of his country ahead of his own ambitions. Like few other leaders anywhere, he was willing to choose the path of peaceful reconciliation without compromising his core values. Through his life, Raila Odinga set an example, not just for Kenyans, but across Africa and around the world. I know he'll be missed. Michelle and I send our deepest condolences to his family and to the people of Kenya. E-message was a few days late, and I think was only bombarded Obama. And I'd want to know why Obama took so long to release the message. Was he trying to be politically correct? Because I understand when you're the president and you have to be politically correct, because you have to be. And yes, so anaweza kujoka nili mchukua long, but Kenyans literally forced that out of him. So that was one of the interesting things that happened. And then another interesting thing that I saw was what? Ilikuwa hii story ya Uhuru was back in Bondo on Monday. And yeah, I'd want to know, like, when I read the book, when nilisoma ile book ya Oyunga Pala, the book talked about how we as men have these stories that we never talk about. So one of the things, if I was a fly on the wall, I'd have wanted to know all these conversations that Raila and Uhuru, what did they used to be about? And did they ever explore 2007 and how it turned their two like fates? Like one of them had to fight for freedom, while the other one had to fight allegations of he set up the other two. Because I think that's another thing that was also how that Raila alikuwa accused of setting up Ruto and Uhuru. So did they ever talk about that, or did they just sweep it under the rug and move on? Because it's the African way. We sweep these things under the rug, and then yes. So but there was that news article, of course, of how he went and went to the gravesite, akabaki ameomba, and yeah, and still I don't know, like if they never talked about that, were they actual friends? Najua, like, because this political friendship ya Kenya inakuwaga tricky. You never know where it starts and where it ends, because there's always very many unspoken truths, and these unspoken truths, normally you find that the citizens out here actually believe them. When they are told this person is this, they believe this person is this, and then eventually when it's like, you know what, it's just politics, it becomes too late. But yes, wacha tucheki hii story vile ilikuwa reported ya Uhuru in Bondo.
Now, a day after the state burial of former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga, retired President Uhuru Kenyatta, who was a close friend, returned to Opoda Farm and Kango, Kajaramogi, to console his family. During the visit, the fourth president in the company of the Odinga's elder brother, Uhuru Odinga, visited Raila's grave and said a prayer. The two then visited the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Mausoleum to honor the memory of the Oginga's family contribution to Kenya's history and democracy. Later on in the day, the retired president visited the home of the late Raila, where he condoled with Mama Ida Odinga.
Yeah, so nisabaki umecheki hapo video, unacheki wakiwa kwa gravesite, and yeah, so his story, of course, the wound is still very active. But time is very interesting. Time is very interesting because I think as the wound is this new, we will still talk about Raila, and then at some point tutaanza kusahau. So the only thing that I actually hope ni hatutasahau the main things, like freedom of expression, to me will always be paramount, and also hoping for free and fair elections. And free and fair elections, according to me, if you had to ask me, it's the day that we will have presidential results announced in less than 12 hours. To me, that's free and fair. All this other nonsense of hakuna network, hakuna what, inakwaga bullshit. It's just monkey games that are being played. People are trying to balance out numbers. And what that does, it creates a lot of tension. I've been to very many parts of Kenya, and kunakwaga na network. History, all of a sudden during elections, we need 3 days for results to reach Nairobi, and people actually believe this nonsense. Unapataga wasa wako like, hey, buda jua hakuna network, hakuna. No, we don't need that shit. And then another thing that we need to do is we ourselves need to be able to tally results and release results. Let the winner win, and if we make a mistake, let's make the mistake. Najua, that's the one thing that African presidents need to realize. You might be the best thing since sliced bread, but if the people say they don't want you, they don't want you. Don't try to force yourself on them. So that's just one of those things that I feel like tuna need kunini. But still pia, I think another thing ile sikubonga juu yake ama sijabonga juu yake ni Ruto alibaki amepatia Raila the CGH, najua Chief of the Golden Heart. So he Golden Heart, kuna a lot of questionable characters who are supposed to be given. I think kulikuwa na Didmas Barasa, kulikuwa na Waluke, kulikuwa na Buddha fulani, I think anaitwa Kapondi. And I don't know if they were given because I didn't follow up on that, but what I know is Raila alienda akipatiwa CGH. So CGH, your Chief of the Golden Heart, apparently is the highest that someone can get. And wacha tusikia, Citizen only report.
So President William Ruto conferred the highest civilian honor to the late former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga, the Chief of the Golden Heart. So what does that mean? Let me explain. CGH is the highest class of the country's national honors. There are 3 levels of the Order of the Golden Heart of Kenya. First is the Chief of the Golden Heart, CGH, Elder of the Golden Heart, EGH, and Moran of the Golden Heart, MGH. It was established under the National Honours Act of 2013. The award is conferred by the President to individuals who have offered exceptional service, patriotism, leadership, and integrity. The medal itself has a golden 5-pointed star surrounded by a wreath and a ribbon with Kenya's national colours. It symbolizes selfless service, national unity, and excellence in leadership. The award was established by Kenya's first president, Jomo Kenyatta, in 1966 to honor individuals who made extraordinary contributions to Kenya.
Yes, so umesikia hiyo order ilikuwa nini? Jomo Kenyatta 1966. Alafu yes, honor extraordinary individuals. And of course, when we think about extraordinary individuals, we think about presidents. And apart from thinking about presidents, we think about people who've served in the government of the day. Najua, we never think about outside the government. That's why this was news. This made like major headlines.
Other recipients include former presidents Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, Daniel Moi, Mwai Kibaki, and Uhuru Kenyatta. Former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and Prince Rahim Aga Khan have also received the award. But this is the first time it has been awarded to an opposition leader, and also one of the rare instances of a non-head of state receiving that award. The Chief of the Order of the Golden Heart symbolizes national gratitude, heroism, sacrifice, leadership, and unity. The award is not just ceremonial, it reflects the Republic's highest esteem and serves as a permanent record of the recipient's legacy.
So I think hapo ni vile nilikuwa nimesema, there's a reaction video I did ile Ruto alikuwa anabonga juu ya righting the wrongs za Raila, and I feel like this was one of those where if you hear this has been conferred to the heads of states, so kuna watu watasema he was the people's president, so I guess that's the reason why Elbaki amepata hiyo. Ekonene, nimeinterrupt show kukuremind juu ya LemFi. Kama uko US ama Canada na unataka kutuma do Kenya, register kwa LemFi ukitumia promo code Ekonene. Hii itakuguarantee $20 cashback on your first $100 transaction. Alafu pia time una register, make sure umetick the 2 checkboxes za notifications ndio ukireceive info about amazing offers through newsletters. Na pia usijali, LemFi hawatumagi hizi letters za, yani unajua like messages za kipumbavu. Pia usisahau, every time una transact $50 and above una earn points. Na the more una transact, the more points you earn, and you can redeem them as cash ile time unatuma pesa. Alafu pia kitu nanibamba kabisa ni saizi ukitumia LemFi unabaki umelipa pay bills na till numbers directly. That means unabaki umehandle bills za maparo wako ukiwa hizo maside za states ama maside za Canada. Alafu pia wewe mwenyewe as a LemFi user baki umetafuta ile button imeandikwa get USD $20, ubaki umeinvite mabeste zako, na ukiinvite mabeste zako on their first $100 transaction unapata pesa ngapi? $20 cashback. So unangoja nini? Baki umechangamka, ingia LemFi. LemFi, international payments for everyone. Ekonene. Yes, so there was that, and still, yeah, tukistick na history ya Raila, like another thing that has been happening is, as this was happening, one of the things that I normally say is, as Kenyans, we have to be proud, because if you are to look at our neighbors, and our neighbors in Tanzania, right now they are preparing for their elections, and whatever is happening in that country is just sad. Najua, it's just one of those zile uko, damn, like how will they ever get out of that? And this is the reason why wasoshindaga nikisema that we should never dharau the other generations that passed. Those generations did amazing things, because of those generations we can never go through what Tanzania is going through. And this is the reason why, even as Ruto tries to threaten us that he's going to take us back to hizo siku za kitambo, because haita happen. Because what's happening in TZ, if you're wondering like why I'm talking about that, because TZ wako na elections this year, alafu UG wako na elections next year. But TZ, ikikam to TZ, what has been happening is they've been muzzling the opposition, and apart from muzzling the opposition, they've been arresting them, and apart from the abductions kuna mpaka killings. And what is sad is when mother alitokeaga and she became the president, everyone was lying to themselves that she'd be better than Magufuli, and I can comfortably say that she's been worse. Why? cause kuna a lot of extrajudicial killings which happened under Magufuli, but the difference is under Magufuli there was development. Yeye ni all these extrajudicial disappearances, torture, nini zote, and hakuna development yoyote ile ina happen under yeye. She's back to wastage of money. Magufuli never used to go with entourage ya gari kama 60, Umatha na roll na gari kama 60. So I don't know, I think ni kama wale wasee vile Magufuli alidedi walifurahi, because with that at least they can get someone they can control. So I think to a certain level they control her, and yes, she knows nothing. Nikanaambiwagwa tufanye hivi ndio alafu yeah. So ameapprove torture, ameapprove all sorts of stuff, like ile kitu ili happen ya kina Boni, hizo vitu zote ameapprove. But hey, wacha tusikize.
Amnesty International on Monday raised a red flag over a growing trend of human rights violations across Tanzania, cases mostly targeting opposition candidates, their supporters, journalists, and human rights defenders.
We are seeing a wave of terror. We've seen unlawful killings happening in the country. We've seen disappearances of opposition leaders. We've seen disappearances of even very senior officials like a former ambassador of Tanzania to Cuba. We have seen closure of media outlets. We have seen closure of other online platforms.
The organization raised alarm over incidents of enforced disappearances, abductions, and killings of opposition leaders, which have sparked fears of a compromised electoral process.
And I don't even think they've sparked fears. We just know that it's just a formality. So the only thing we don't know, is it going to be as bad as during Magufuli's time? Because during Magufuli's time, the story is Magufuli alikuwa anapigia ase wa Electoral Commission, alafu anaambia like, unadai aje? Unadai kudisappear ama unadai kufanya nini? Because whatever unadai is what's going to happen. So what ended up happening with them is they just announced the results that he wanted, and that's how the opposition ended up not being in parliament. So now will the opposition end up in parliament this time? Ama is it going to be business as usual? And now I think things have changed so much that I think for countries like Akina Uganda and Tanzania, unless the president of that country decides they want otherwise, the people will have to accept that freedom ain't free. And for them to get like this level of freedom that we have, they'll have to go to the streets and they'll have to, in quotes, disrupt business. Nakumbuka ile ujinga hapa Nairobi ilikuwa Nairobi business community. They'll have to do that. They'll have to piece off the Dar es Salaam business community to a certain level, because they have to bring the country to a standstill. They have to make sure the government knows it can't be business as usual. But can they do that? This is something they should have done in the 90s, but they didn't do. And hiyo generation yao ya mabuda hawakufanyaga hivyo. Mabuda zetu walifanya hivyo. That's why every time wasona criticize mabuda zetu na kuwaga zile za zizi. You don't know. They had a certain level of courage that we can only think of. Najua ile kuingizwa kwa maji na kufikia hapa, and you still unasema Moi must go. Mayote yawezekana bila Moi. But yes, wacha tuendelee.
Tanzania election in 2025 creates a worrying trend in the region. A worrying trend that an opposition leader can be arrested, jailed, and trial goes on to elections.
Of course, hiyo pila amesema worrying trend in East Africa. Why? Because also in Uganda, Besigye is going through the same shit. And hicho kifala kinaitwa Museveni kilitoke kizusha. That was anasema kimededi. So kinasema that crackdown inafaa kufanywa ya Twitter. And of course, it's just a matter of time. You are over 80. Nacheki. You can be there with your mask, seated like a million kilometers away from people because you have fear of infections, and you still want to run the country forever. Like, you're just afraid of infections. You can't even leave. Unajua, like, tembea, ongea na watu. Unajua mseka Raila at least alikuwa over 80 na alikuwa na interact na wasee. Hapo ati ameogopa infections, ati amevaa mask, yuko hiyo design ya ule fala anatembea na mask. Kila mtu yuko huko, yeye yuko hapa. Why? Because you want to run Uganda like it's your bedroom. So so the common trend in East Africa means Kenya, and it also means Tanzania.
worrying trend that
means Uganda and Tanzania, damn it, Kenya is better, damn it. My bad.
That any foreigner that wants to travel to the country for trial observation, for solidarity, can be arrested, can be prevented from coming into the country and tortured, as we saw in the case of Boniface Mwangi and Agatha Tuhaire.
Amnesty International further regretted the continued harassment of key opposition figures challenging President Suluhu's government, mostly by state security agencies.
And in the country, of course, there is a lot of worry and anxiety building up ahead of the election. Election seasons are usually an opportunity for citizens to renew their citizenship through voting and voting for the leaders that they want. But also it is an opportunity to put to account their leaders. But we are seeing this has actually been almost denied.
So yes, so of course these elections will happen next week on Wednesday. And I know the results. Mama Samia Suluhu is going to get, let's say 70%. Yeah, itakuwa ni kazi na Samia. Oh damn, mi naitwa Baba Samia, niko nimesahau. So yeah, I expect that to happen. Like, anaenda kushinda. And that's what's pathetic about hizo countries. And that's one of the things why I'm proud of the 254. Like, a lot of stuff disappoints me about this country. But I always give credit to the generations that came before us for giving us this sort of voice that we can be out here questioning stuff and still be able to make it. You still be able to even run businesses. And in Tanzania and Uganda, you do this, and that's the quickest way to find out if heaven and hell is real. Najua, wacha tumalizie na history.
Because of the disqualification of the major candidates of the opposition, so the elections proceed with the ruling party going into the election virtually unchallenged.
Tanzania is expected to hold its general election on the 29th of October. However, prominent Chadema party leaders Luhaga Mpina and Tundu Lissu have been barred from participating due to pending court cases. The organization is now calling on global human rights bodies to intervene and safeguard democracy in the United Republic of Tanzania.
And of course, isn't it utasema too, but the Americas and the wherever, they don't care about Tanzania. Najua, there is no gold to be gotten from there. There is no oil to be gotten from there. So they actually don't care. So at the end of the day, Tanzanians have to be the ones that are going to say enough is enough. And one thing about these regimes is they get shaken. And they normally get shaken, especially when they don't expect that to happen. So place kama Kenya, tunaweza angalia like what happened in 2024. And the reason that Ruto was scared is because for once he saw something that he'd never seen before. And yes, yeah, alibaki ameona something that he'd never seen before. And he said, I think the day that people decide enough is enough, itakuwa a massacre, because of course they'll try to use maximum violence kumaliza kila mtu na kufanya kila mtu anyamaze, but maybe that's what's needed. Because the worst thing about this thing, and this is the one thing that I always praise the generations that came before us, is freedom ain't free. And all these freedoms that we have to understand they came at such a steep price. And TZ did not pay that price. And since Tanzania did not pay that price, and Uganda did not pay that price, they can't even talk. They can't even question anything. Because questioning something there means enforced disappearances. So Tundu Lissu hatakuwa involved kwa hii vote. And yeah, it's going to be like maybe ile vote yetu ya 2017 after the annulment of the elections. So the mockery that we had of voting. Yes, hii ingine pia itakuwa hivyo ya TZ. The only problem is nothing has been annulled. That's going to be round 1. And round 1 is going to be a disaster. So, yeah. TZ, man. Next week on Wednesday. Good luck. Iko Nini.